right, we back in the recorded format on this episode of the BIC podcast under the auspices of Brett Favre, the watchful eye of Brett Favre. We are Eric Less because Eric is still circling the turnpike, trying to evade the forces of Marcel Dion and Reggie Lemon.
Yeah, we might have to put up missing signs, milk cartons, something. We don't know if he's going to figure out his way home. It's to be determined, but hopefully, if he does, he makes it there safely.
Now, is there a version of so this and more on this episode of the BIC podcast? I'm going to hit the music. But before I do, I want to ponder this question, and we'll come back after the guitar riffs. Is there a version of like the missing from the milk carton where is don't want to be found? Don't find him, leave him be? That and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. I wanted to start on a profound thought before we hit the music. That was very important. But this is the post-Expo episode. Myself and Eric were at the Expo, and he is still commuting his way back, slowly finding his way. He was blaming, though. I will tell you this. I'll share this with you. He was blaming the Buffalo Bills fans. He's saying all the Canadians going to the Buffalo Bills. Is like, listen, Buffalo is a Canadian protectorate state. So he wasn't even out of the country yet. And he's trying to blame the Buffalo Bills, Canadians going to the Buffalo Bills game. It's like, you can't never get your way around that. Plan better, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, did he not know that they were playing tonight?
It's on the schedule. It's like, and we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL. I didn't get a chance to watch too much, but Bobbles will fill us in here a little bit. But before I do want to give a little bit of love to a friend of the channel and channel sponsor, AMG Collectibles, amgcollectibles.ca and amgcardbreaks.com. I do want to thank AMG for supporting the channel. And in the course of discussing the Toronto Expo, I will talk a little bit about what happened with AMG, what happened with PSA, and also, friend Brad and everything that was going on over there. So I have a couple of stories that I'll share. I'll share mostly my own stuff and probably some more of it, definitely. We'll talk about that on the Friday show. But I do want to start off with a couple of things that we'll talk about. And one of the other things that I'll definitely want to chat with, and I'll bounce this back and forth with Bobbles, is that since he's in the reselling world, I'm going to enter. I've had my eBay, my eBay store and all that for a bit, but I don't really go full line into it. But I am going to be doing some of that as part of some wheeling and dealing that I did do at the Expo, and I'll share a couple of stories pertaining to that side of things. But thank you to AMG and AMGCardBreaks.com and AMGCollectibles.ca for supporting the channel and the podcast. So to start off with, let's do this. I did get a chance. I got back since it's kind of in my backyard. I do get a hotel there just because it's easier for me to stay in the ecosystem while I'm there. But realistically, I'm close enough by that it's a drive back. And for me, Sunday was kind of a decompression. I did stick around a little bit on Sunday, but then I took off and then got back here. And then I was doing a couple of things around the house, watching a little bit of the games, but I didn't get a chance to catch too much. So let me ask you this. Is there anything from the Sunday slate of games, anything that caught your eye that you did get a chance to see?
Well, there was a lot of close games. I will say 49ers looked very well. They went up against the Jaguars, and it was no contest. They pretty much blew them out, so they look like they're good again. Texans won. They have a pretty soft, I would say, schedule coming up, so it's favorable for them on the division aspect.
Plus, it gives Dakota an opportunity to keep building the CJ Stroud shrine. I think that's right there. That's an opportunity. It continues.
We were discussing that today in the Discord. Some offers he had on some stuff, but anyway, they won on a field goal at the end of the game. The Patriots, Eric. I'm gonna shout out your boys in a questionable way. I don't know that I've ever seen anything so crazy. Mac Jones had a chance to win the game, or at least take the lead, throws a pass to the defense, intercepted. So then Belichick decides, with the game still a possibility to win, to change quarterbacks in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter. And he goes to Bailey Zappi to become the hero. Well, he was moving the ball a little bit, goes for a fake spike, and he throws an interception.
Mhm.
Why his vision was straight in the middle of the field and wasn't throwing outside, I don't know. That was very weird.
Now, can I ask you a
Steelers,
question?
Packers.
Can I ask a serious question just before? Uh,
Mhm.
Now, it's a real possibility given the state of where the Patriots are. Do you think it's honestly that Belichick is like, yeah, this team is not going to get the job done? Like, I'm not really going to try to win this game. Just like, yeah, whatever, give it a go, and we may as well lose and get a better draft pick.
I don't think that was it at all because I actually heard bits of the post game.
Mhm.
I think he thought they had I think he could see Mac Jones was struggling. He was very frustrated when he threw that interception. He was
Okay.
probably frustrated with Mac Jones and thought, okay, let's trot Zappy out there. He's our best chance right now. Maybe mental headspace, who knows? But it did not work out. It was same results.
Okay.
Um, my team though, I can't say anything. The
Mhm.
Ravens, that was embarrassing. They it's another loss that they had in the hand. That like they had it in hand. I think they were up 31-17 in the fourth quarter or something like that.
Mhm.
Wound up losing. There was a lot of close games yesterday. Saints came back. Vikings was blowing them out. Josh
Mhm.
Dobbs to the moon. Hell with CJ Stroud. Go pick up Josh Dobbs.
There you go.
Kyler
Okay.
Murray. Kyler Murray's back. He wins. Beats the Falcons. Former Dobbs team, Cardinals. Now we got two good teams in the NFC because of Josh Dobbs is on one and Murray's on the other. Lions, they look legit. They beat the Chargers pretty. Even that game got close, but the Lions were doing pretty well for the most part of it. Chargers and Herbert started coming back. Cowboys, they made the Giants look silly. That's about all the games I caught.
Yeah.
I didn't really
Now
see
I did.
what happened in the Raiders Jets or any of the other games, but
Yep. Now I did catch. I didn't get a chance to catch much of it. I did maybe catch the tail end of it, but I heard from a lot of the podcasts that I follow for the Packers side of things. They seem to be encouraged. In reality, like at this point, it doesn't benefit the team to win it all. Like I mentioned this before, it is really to their benefit, honestly, to lose out, get the best possible draft pick. But the only objective is evaluation. The goal is they would like them to keep playing to see what, if anything, they have with Jordan Love, if he can show improvement, if the team can figure something, if he can develop chemistry with a receiver, anything. Just you're trying to figure out because you're going to make future decisions based on your whatever is demonstrated for the rest of this season. You want to hope that in the offseason you can kind of make up your mind where you sit on this. Like, is this something we can build off of, and then you maybe give us some more help, or is it a situation where it's just not going to work and cut bait because you still have an opportunity. You're not committed to anything one way or the other, but you got to figure out what you got because the only thing worse than not having a good quarterback is having a bad one and being locked in and being pot committed to one that doesn't work for what you're trying to accomplish.
well, I'm not going to speak on the Jordan Love side of things, but I will say because I had on the NFL Network, like it's not the red zone, but it's like I don't know, it was some game day game cast thing or something where they would
Okay.
switch game to game to game.
Okay.
And what I took away from that game and noticed was every time it kicked on, it seemed like the Packers defense was lost. Like,
Mhm.
it was almost like the Steelers could do whatever the heck they wanted over there, and, so I'm wondering, football is football is always we look at one player or the quarterback specifically, and they kinda get the shine put on them, but it is by far the most team-based sport there is out there,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering if maybe Jordan Love maybe he's not doing so bad, and if the Green Bay defense just absolutely sucks. So that could be part of your team's problem.
It could be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think, like I said, what it really comes down to is one of the things that people are like staring at. They're staring at Jordan Love like a hawk because they're like, look, if the receivers aren't doing anything for you, it happens. But are the decisions you're
Mhm.
making good decisions? Are you at least putting them in a position where, hey, maybe if you fight for the ball a little bit, you at least got a chance? Or are you just throwing it in a quintuple coverage and there's no chance and that's actually a terrible decision? Please don't do that anymore. Those are the
That
kinds of
would
things you're trying
be
to figure out.
That would be the New England Patriots. Like
Yeah.
right there, what you just said is the entire New England Patriots quarterback staff
Mhm.
because the interception that Mac Jones threw, he had the guy, like the wide receiver, had the defense beat. All
Right.
he had to do was put a little air on the ball and throw
Right.
it over the defender, and he had a touchdown. And
Mhm.
then you put Zappy in there, and he doesn't go. They were talking about that like he doesn't get reps with the hurry up offense in practice, so it's impressive he's even doing this. And it was ballsy to do a fake snap play to begin with, but he had a one-on-one guy on the outside running, a fly pattern with the defender beat, and he throws it to the guy in the middle of the field that had four defenders around him. So you
Right.
just described the entire Patriots quarterback unit.
No, sure. But in that situation though, if you're a Patriots fan, you already know you got nothing. You can look over at the quarterbacks. That's a situation where like this isn't going to work. All of you are cut. None of you make the team next year. Please go away,
Yeah.
all of you. So
You're calling Brady back.
yeah, but at least though in that situation, you know what the situation is. Right now, in my situation, my team's situation is we're trying to make that determination. And we don't exactly have complete information, but we're hoping week by week. The scrutiny is trying to figure out, like, look, if it's just bad talent around you, that is fixable. If it's a combination of bad talent and you're making bad decisions and not improving yourself, then that's a problem because then you've had enough time to at least learn the system, whatever it is, or maybe the system's bad. Maybe it's a coaching problem. And these are the questions that people are asking, which I think is fair because they're trying to figure out what is the main culprit and what's the main thing that you fix first to get you to advance forward and improve the situation overall. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm still enjoying checking out the games, enjoying the season. I knew the season what it was going to be, so it's a situation where like I can't be disappointed because I'm kind of getting what I expected. The only question that I'm going to have, hopefully, as each week goes on, is like every week is its own independent evaluation. Every team and everything they play is like, all right, can you show me a little improvement from last time? That's all we're shooting
Right.
for, just a little improvement, and that's it. Lose the game, win the game, but just show me a little improvement, and that's all we're looking for here. Makes sense.
Definitely, yeah. I I was fed up. Uh I was surprised I kept the TV on and kept up with any of it more
Mhm.
than what I did after the Ravens because I just I believe this is the second time this year we had a game in hand, like
Right.
easily in hand. In the fourth quarter, it was really no question that we were going to win
Mhm.
and wound up losing. And they got to stop that. I mean, Harbaugh has won a Super Bowl, Lamar has won an MVP. They have running backs to run the ball. If you have the lead, just start burning the clock. I mean, use some sense, but I don't know. It's just frustrating to lose games like that, especially to the Browns. I mean, how the hell do you lose to the Browns like that? So I don't know. It
Apparently,
was
God does
tough.
that. Look from the Discord. Apparently, God doesn't hate Cleveland this week.
Yeah, I
This
don't
is what I'm
know
hearing.
what it was. I mean, Watson at one point I think was 1 for 9 for 18 yards or something like that. And the one pass he had completed was almost a sack because his center stepped on his foot and the receiver came back to catch the ball. Like it was terrible. And then to lose a game like that, it was just, yeah, it pissed me off. I'll just say it like it is. It
There you
pissed me
go.
off.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you, Bobbles, filling in some of the blanks for at least this week's NFL slate. So I appreciate you. So thank you for that.
And
So
Eric, when you listen, your Patriots still suck.
everything Boston related sucks. I think we can all agree on that. But let's move on here. I'll talk a little bit about Expo here, and obviously, over the course of this week, we'll fill in. But I do want to chat about a couple of things, and there's a couple of things we can bounce back and forth that I think we can talk about. One of the points we were making before we started recording is that you cannot use this as a gauge for the overall market because it's a unique beast. It's a very specific edge case. What I'll say though, with that said, we'll find out what the official totals are. And I do have a line. I can reach out to Steve Menzie, who is the promoter of the show. But I did get a chance to speak with him actually while we were out having a dinner at one point, not with them necessarily, but he was at the restaurant and he actually came by and said hello and we chatted a little bit. And in the course of that conversation, he was very pleased. I can say that he was very able to tell us that he was actually quite happy with the way things were, and he felt that comfortably they were well ahead of where they were previously in the schedule, and that was on Saturday night. So Sunday is usually a little quieter. Saturday was crazy. It was gangbusters. What I'll say is Thursday was calm. So, pro tip, if you ever go down to Expo in the fall, the VIP night, if you have access to the VIP night, um, it's the best time to make more complicated deals. If you want to have the space, time, and room to be able to have those conversations, have basically full access to the room, be able to go around and look at everything if you really want to, it's a great time because you've got more space, you got more room. There are people out there doing things, but if you want to sit there and come up with some kind of complicated deal and you need space on the table and not have 50 people bump into you, Thursday is perfect for that. Friday is still good, but then Saturday, it's tricky. If you want to try to pull off the deal on Saturday, this particular Saturday was very difficult because the way they did it with the two main hallways, you had hall, first hall and then the second hall, and the second hall is where all the autograph guests were and where the grading pavilion was with PSA, Beckett, others. So you had that going on, but the reality was there was a ton of people going through a relatively narrow area with dealers also set up on both sides. So I can only imagine for the dealers how frustrating it must have been that you have a lot of people going by, yes, but even if people want to look at it, they're getting bumped from people walking behind them because there's only so much space to try to get around. Now, one of the things that he did mention though is that you have different guests and they obviously have their fans and everything, but he was always dubious if a specific guest would move the needle. And from what he was explaining and telling us, Mike Tyson moved the needle. There was a lot of love and a lot of folks that came in to see Tyson. And there was a lot of enthusiasm for Ric Flair too. We heard woos, many a woo. Don't worry about that. But I'll say this: it's hard to say it wasn't successful. So again, niche category, niche area, but we had a lot of people through the door. And I can also say, and we'll find out again the real numbers. The PSA Canada folks felt like they were tracking on Saturday, early Saturday, to have their best show ever. And their last show was a record breaking show. And they felt like they went far beyond that. They were well ahead of pace. So we'll kind of see what the final totals were. But if what I saw visually was any indication, they were constantly busy, constantly flowing. But in laying in what I said a little earlier, on Thursday, I was at least able to walk over and chat with them for a couple of minutes without them getting bombarded. Yes, there were people in line submitting stuff, but they had 3 or 4 windows or 5 or 6 windows or whatever it was. But at least you were able to have a quick chat. Friday, a little bit. Saturday, no chance. Basically, you could wave. That's about all you could do because I knew some of the people in there obviously taking the submissions, but all I could really do is wave and say, hey, you still alive? Still hanging in there. All right. Have a good one. That's about the full extent of the conversation. Thursday, we were actually able to have a nice little chat. Very big difference in the amount of people out there.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that he talked about Tyson drawing the
Mhm.
crowd and everything. They've the expos are going on for how long, and they've had autograph guests, so it's kind of
Sure.
interesting to see that he was like trying or intrigued to see if a guest like that, because I talk about Chantilly, that's my neck of the woods, and
Mhm.
it's a good autographed guest list that normally comes there. And same thing, you get guys like Tyson and things like that that come in, you're going to see a bigger crowd. Now,
Of
I'm
course.
sure it may not be as noticeable for Expo to there,
Mhm.
um, but it's another interesting point when it comes to like pop culture and
Mhm.
sports, because
Yes.
when you look at Tyson, yeah, he was a boxer, but he's gained a lot of his popularity outside of the ring and things he's done, outside of just being a boxer. So it's no surprise that he draws a big crowd, and it's not just in his fandom of being a heavyweight boxer. So
Absolutely. But Mike Tyson is what you would really qualify as a true celebrity. He extends beyond the standard. He is not just an athlete celebrity, he is just a celebrity. Mike Tyson in and of himself is a draw. I think really what surprised him wasn't that he was a draw. It just surprised him the how strong
mhm.
the audience that he was able to draw, to the point that, like, for a moment I tried to explain how you had the two main halls. the main hall where the majority of the dealers were. The other section we'd had dealers, but had the autograph pavilion, and then had the grading pavilion over on the side, which obviously was drawing a lot of people, a lot of flow of foot people. But you had this hallway in the middle. And during a brief time on Saturday, it was basically, highway traffic, bumper to bumper. Like it just wasn't moving. So if you wanted to try to bypass that area, you were going to have a tough. You would almost have been better off if you were trying to get around to exit, because you could exit out of that set of halls, walk around the building. And go to the outside, because at least you'd have room. That'd be your best way to maybe get around. So I think it was definitely they were definitely a draw, and they were running multiple autograph signers together. They had panels over in that area, so I will say they did a good job having lots of activity. And I think having lots of activity for the dealers that were on that side of that hallway, I think kept the flow going and gave them at least a chance to make some deals, to make some sales, and to have some foot traffic, which has been a challenge in the past. But it seemed like they did a reasonably good job putting people out there this time around.
Yeah, for those if you've never been to Chantilly, it's a similar thing. You have the main floor of dealers, and I'm assuming that's what kind of you were talking about with the dealers near the autograph panel. But you would have a main floor, and then there's a cinder block wall with two kind of like bay door style openings, one on each end of that wall. And that's how you get back to where all the autograph signers are. But they would sometimes run along the wall, dealers back there. And it's the same thing. If it wasn't for the autograph guests back there, I there was many times that I've been to the show and not even walked on that side of the wall, and I would forget that there could be dealers over there. So I could definitely see that like helping with a larger crowd, because then you're at least getting more opportunity of folks being over there and maybe check out your stuff. So
For sure. So I can actually, so for the video portion, I'll actually show you guys. So really what I'm talking about here is I got a big rectangular hall. This in the past years would be the entire show. Just that hall 5 that's on the screen here would be the entire show, which was already hundreds of tables and hundreds of dealers. Already pretty good. This year they expanded to 200,000 square feet. So what basically happens, you had your main hall area there, lots of space. But then here's what I'm talking about. You've got this area right here. That is a long hallway that leads you over into the other hall area. So now you've got yourself another entire section here with two separate halls. You've got what's called Hall 4. This is the autograph pavilion. So the way I would describe it is you got a long hallway leading you into another hall that's kind of a rectangle as well, but it leads you then into another section, another rectangle, and you've got this PSA mega booth and a couple of other main booths with a lot of these other graders. And that entire area, including the kids trade zone, and then you go out of that hall authentication pavilion, you go into the autograph pavilion, which actually has 4 or 5 different autograph signers at the same time. You got a stage, you got all that. That's all in the separate area. And you have to go by this hallway in order to get there. Well, that's the part that basically became locked up. Once it got busy, we had Tyson and Ric Flair and a couple of those folks. This area became basically standstill. It was very difficult to get from point A to point B. I didn't try to, but if you were trying to, I understand why it might have been difficult. That's why I kind of joked about it, is that there is actually an entrance here. You could probably have it just exited out and probably just gone around it and wound up over here if you really wanted to. That might have been a way around it, but it is a dealer entrance. So going the other way might not work out for you. But I just thought I would share it. It was kind of funny that that's the way it worked out this time around. So we'll see. Maybe a redesign next year will maybe make sense for them. But it was interesting to see that the autograph guests were a hit, and we didn't even get all of them. Reggie Jackson had to drop out at the last minute. We missed out on our catching.
what the hell?
I know,
We
man.
talked all about the Reggie Jackson experience and throwing in the ball. What the hell, Reggie?
Well, Bobbles, can I tell
We
you serious?
talked about it.
Can I say a serious story? I got a chance to chat with a variety of folks that recognized me or or watched the YouTube channel. And thank you to all those folks who stopped me to say hello. I appreciate each of you for chatting with me for a little bit, and I'm glad you enjoy it. And hopefully, we provide you at least entertainment or information or something, whatever it is. Hopefully, you get something out of it. But one of them did share with me a story that one of their friends actually came all the way. I want to say from Korea, or maybe basically came from Korea, a long, long, long way, and he had the Reggie Jackson VIP. And it was like,
Oh,
oh, it's like that's, and I was like, oh, that's awful. That's terrible. Now, fortunately, they were able to still make a vacation out of it. They still got, they were still able to make something out of it. But that's a shame. Like that's a real
yeah.
shame that you would plan it out and travel all the way over to do this VIP experience thing that you were hoping to do, and then unfortunately it was a cancellation. For the most part, the guest list, we didn't have too many cancellations, which is good, but it was a shame. But when he told me that, I was like, oh no, not the Reggie one. That's a shame. That's actually really sad to hear.
I'll tell you a guy that I'm pretty sure every time since I've been going to Chantilly, every time I've seen his name on the list, he's canceled,
Right.
and there's been good reason behind it, but
Sure.
um, David Ortiz, he has been a guest to appear at Chantilly several times, and it seems like every time he's on that list, something comes up and he has to cancel.
Gotcha.
So it does happen. It's a frequent thing. There's normally, probably a handful or more people each show that cancel, but it's unfortunate. That would suck to travel that far,
Yeah.
and hopefully that wasn't the main attraction or reason for the travel, and they were still able to work out some other things, but that does suck.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like when they told me that, I was like, that actually really is terrible. That sucks to hear because obviously you came quite a long way to have this experience and not be able to have it is really a big shame. Hopefully they were able to make something out of it for the trip itself and hopefully got a vacation out of it. That's what I do recommend. If you do attend one of these shows and it's a destination trip for you, make a vacation out of it. Make sure you set up other things so that you can't be disappointed if not everything works out exactly the way you expect it because stuff does happen. You never want it to happen, but stuff does happen occasionally. So that was one major thing that I wanted to, mention. I also want to applaud a lot of the folks there. They ran a lot of events. There was a lot of things going on, and I will say I had a good time and enjoyed it. I didn't come close to checking all the areas because I was hanging out at some of the different areas. I also want to shout out Bobby Burrell. He had his booth where he was talking about his Needham app. We were able to hang out and have a good time checking out the app and checking out the booth. And I was able to do a live stream from the Needham booth there. The audio was terrible because I was basically running it off of an iPhone on a tripod. But nonetheless, I wanted to have at least one live stream from the Expo show floor. And we were able to do that. I did try to arrange for another one. And we just weren't able to get it done. But at least we were able to get one there on the show floor during the Expo itself. So I think that was a lot of
So
fun. And go ahead.
can I just confirm that Eric still doesn't have the app?
Oh, God, no.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that had to be clarified. Okay,
Yeah, we have
carry on.
we have common decency. Yes, absolutely. But yes, he was there to do a lot of complaining. I did reluctantly give him his Reggie Lemon M&M. I thought about just avoiding him.
Oh,
Because he was running around so much chasing after hockey players. I could have probably avoided him the entire show and never given him the card. And we could have extended this because he's not coming to the spring one. So I could have held it Bobbles for an entire year. I mean, well,
mm,
I can't entrust the mail with something as important as this. I'd have to deliver it in person. I'm not going to PBD or Worcestershire or wherever you're supposedly are from, whatever fake place you made up. Can't do that.
yeah, yeah. That would have been unfortunate. It would almost, nah, not quite. I was
Mm.
gonna say it almost been like the gentleman from Korea, but I mean, mm, and then you could have forgotten it next year at home. Because it had been a year, it wasn't fresh on your mind to bring it for him. Yeah, I
You could have
mean,
gotten
you
buried
could have.
under a bunch of stuff, rubble somewhere. It would
Yeah.
have been unfortunate. But you'll appreciate this. So since I'm on the topic here, I did get some feedback for the podcast. I did have a couple of folks come to me and say, "Hey, I enjoy the podcast. I've enjoyed the new podcast format that you guys have been doing." It's like, but but at least two separate individuals, if not three of them, said, "Yeah, but I don't know about that other guy." And I'm like, Bobbles is a good guy. It's like, no, the Boston guy. Oh, Eric, tell me more. Yeah, tell me
Ah,
more. Pass along more feedback.
I
And
thought I
listen,
was
Bobbles.
getting kicked off another show.
No. Bobbles, you're cool. You're cool. The people are cool with you. But let me tell you, I got some feedback about that Boston guy. A couple of people was like, and it's like, oh no, you don't have to tell. No, please tell me more. I'd love nothing. I love the feedback of the viewers. Please share the feedback by all means. And I was happy to share that with Eric. And Eric was appreciative, as you can well imagine.
Yeah, you'll have
Mhm.
to fill me in.
Oh yes. Mhm. But so I thought you would enjoy that. That was legitimate feedback I got. I just said, "No, please tell me more. Tell me more." So I did enjoy that. Like I said, the conversation with folks were a lot of fun, and I did enjoy that. That was great, and obviously hanging out with the folks. And it is good when it is your local show, and you do know a lot of the dealers and stuff. It's your opportunity to get caught up with folks, hang out, and have some good chats. The dinners after are always really good as well, because that's where you get to
Yep.
really sit down calmly without the craziness of the show going on and have a proper chat. But I did get a chance to chat with some people on the floor, which was awesome. Had a lot of fun with that. One other thing that I think will strike me, and then I'll share like a story of some wheeling and dealing that I was able to do, um, is I did enjoy kind of as I was walking around. I was happy to see, even though I don't know how the execution was necessarily. I did watch a little bit. I wasn't sure. I was happy to see that the CSC folks at least tried to do some live streams from the show, which in my opinion was something that has been lacking. I thought that's why I wanted to make sure I at least did it once from the Needham booth. We did that again. Next year or next time around, we'll plan it out a little bit better, and we'll do a much better version of that production. But look, considering it was in a pinch, at least we were able to get it done. But it was nice. And if Bobby has another booth, maybe we'll do it again from the booth, and we'll figure something out and make it a little bit better. And we'll make the audio better. We'll get a microphone set up in the middle or something. It'll sound better. I guarantee it. But nonetheless, I was happy they were at least trying to do it, which I thought is something that the show has needed for a long time. It's good they're starting to promote it on social media better. And one of the things I mentioned to Bobbles is that they're obviously courting a lot of the influencers. We did see, Mojo Sports. We did see a few other folks that I've seen from YouTube. The David Adams guy from the Chase, Hockey Card Gong Show. Uh, Folks, a lot of folks stateside though. I did mention there was a lot of folks stateside for a Canadian show. American influencers, invading our space.
I didn't ask you before we
Sure,
recorded, and it just dawned on me when you were talking the influencer
go ahead.
thing. Was
Sure.
Jeff's Cards HQ? Did he have a booth set up
Nope.
there to buy?
Nope.
No.
Didn't
Interesting.
see anything related. Yeah, didn't see anything related to them. I think the Card GXQ think they're staying. Although Geoff has been there before. I didn't see or hear anything about him attending this show, but no, nothing Cards HQ related. Pretty much the regulars, the usual suspects. And there was the expanded presence. Although you'll get a kick out of this. This is unrelated from the expo. I did hear from good buddy Jay that he actually tried to submit some Sharknado cards to SGC, and he was rejected. SGC Pete has failed me, Bobbles. SGC Pete he has much to answer for. No wonder he wasn't. No wonder he wasn't at the expo. He couldn't face me. You do not reject
Hmm.
Sharknado, Bobbles. You do not. Do not.
If you would like to try again, feel free. I will do my best to get them. Hopefully put through for you. I can't
Show
promise
some
nothing. I
love,
don't have
Bobbles.
that kind of.
The
But
disrespect of Sharknado. Like I actually I was doing a message back and forth with him, and he told me about that. I was like, what? Scandalous. Scandalous. That's it.
do you know a
SGC's out.
set?
I'll double check. I'll find out. But the bottom line is, as soon as he told me that, I was like, "What? Scandalous!" It's like that's it. SGC is out. MNT is in. Let's go.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry, buddy. Listen, you show respect to Sharknado, or you're out. You get voted off the island. So anyway, so I'll share this one here, and we'll talk through it a little bit. So one of the things that I wanted to do, I had mentioned it before, is that I'm a big fan of that AW metal product. I talked about it, but I also talked about that it wasn't really a good value proposition, and I really made emphasis on that. And I was able to work something out with friends of the channel, AMG Collectibles, and I wanted to get a couple boxes. For sure, I was going to get a couple boxes no matter what. Because I knew they were going to bring some, and I had a feeling it was going to be a tough sell. So I go, oh, no, I'm going to take a couple boxes, but obviously I'm going to try to get a good deal. That's part of the thing. So what I did is I did this in two pieces. The first part is that I actually had purchased a card previously at a card show, which was a Bobby Orr a jersey autograph, which I was able to get off a table for a reasonable price. So I'll give numbers just so we can get some context. I was able to get the card for 200 bucks Canadian, which I thought was a good price for it because it's out of 10. So these are actually pretty tough pulls. And I figured, all right, well, worst case scenario, I can do better than 200 bucks. I put it on eBay and had a chance, had some people tire kick. I wasn't super happy with the offers I was getting. So I go, let me take it to the show and see what I can do. So what I did is I actually chatted with Steve from AMG, and we went back and forth on it a little bit, showed the card. We came to a number we were happy with. And basically I traded it for 4 hobby boxes of the AW metal, which I felt was fair. And then he sent me a text message not long after because I figured they would have an easier time finding a buyer for it. He sent me a text message a couple hours later, and they were able to come to a deal, which allowed him to at least make a little bit of money on it. Great. Win-win. I got a couple boxes for my trouble, and I'll explain more about these boxes because there is another little twist to this at the expo specifically. So I got 4 boxes. So I started off with 4. I then went over and I decided, I came back later and I go, all right, let me buy a couple from you. We came to a price that I was happy with, and I bought 3 more. So now we're at 7. It's important. So what I did is I opened one back in the hotel room and then came back the next day. And at that point, I had to double check. These are eligible for the Upper Deck pack redemption. Very important. Do your research. Make sure you understand which product, because some people got confused with some of the products. And the AMG were one of the ones that had the eligibility to be able to participate. Make sure you check with the manufacturer what the requirements are. Make sure you know what they are, because you got to know the rules if you want to participate. So in this case, I needed them to fill out a little slip, make sure they indicated the product and how many boxes and all that. So I took it over to the Upper Deck thing. They cut it just to make sure you couldn't reuse it, and then gave me bonus packs. Great. So I got bonus pack. Out of the bonus packs, I pulled 3 autographs. Great. That's going to be a little bonus that I'll be able to use after. So what I'm doing here, I wanted to open it, and I was going to keep any cards that fit in my PC, but I was going to sell off the rest and basically just see how close I could get to breaking even. That was my little goal. So I did that. And before I left, I was able to purchase on the last day. The price had dropped basically what I had bought them for. And I said, well, in that case, I'm dropping it even more. I'll take 2 boxes, but I'm reducing the rate. So I'll give you numbers. So I ended up doing 9 hobby boxes in total. My cost basis on this ended up being a little over 72 bucks Canadian, or a little over 50 bucks US for these. So what I did is I said, okay, so with this, let me open these up and see what I can do. I ended up pulling 4 PMGs and 4 autographs, and then also pulled 3 autographs from the bonus Upper Deck redemption packs, which are part of this because I needed these boxes in order to get those. So I'm counting it. I started listing things on eBay, and I'm already about 40% of the way of getting my money back after selling 4 cards. And I still got a bunch more in there. So we're looking potentially again into the black. But the cost basis was really important. And one of them was the Upper Deck redemption autographs that I was able to pull in those bonus packs because I happened to be at the expo with the right product. So it's a thing that you got to chip away at. There was no home run. I beat the odds, but it's testament to where the product's sitting right now that I actually beat the odds. I pulled what are supposed to be some of the stuff that is the most sought after, and there was no guarantee. I still wasn't 100% sure. It wasn't a home run. I couldn't call it a home run. I've done better on a couple of those sales than I expected. So I'm actually ahead of schedule, and I haven't even sold my best ones yet. So I'm actually looking pretty good to make my money back in the next couple of sales and go into the black, which is great. That's fantastic. It was a nice bonus, not unexpected. And I was able to take a couple of cards from my PC. So I consider that a win. But the original pre-sale price was $199 per box. So Bobbles, if you do $199 per box and you open 9 hobby boxes, that's $1,800. I did it for $650 and got the bonus Upper Deck redemption packs. So I have enough going for me. I was able to get it cheap enough and get enough extra stuff that I gave myself a good fighting chance of breaking even and coming out a little bit ahead. But at $1,800, no chance, buddy. None. 0.
So I'm assuming the 1,800 is Canadian.
Yeah, it'd be 1,800 Canadian. So you can knock off about 35% to bring it in American dollars.
Okay. So roughly 1,200.
Probably there. Probably somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah. That
if you paid full retail and pre-sale, yes.
That honestly sounds about right. And it was kind of my discussion with the hockey medal because it's about the same price at that point. And it's discouraging because Metal Universe is an awesome product. I'm glad that you know, at the point you got it at essentially $50 US a box, give or take.
Correct. Yep.
You can open that and not worry about, you know, going underwater because
that's why I made very specific emphasis. I wanted to give real numbers to make sure people understood that I was able to get it really cheap. I brought my cost basis down a lot, which meant it's still a risk. No guarantees on ROI, but I made it as low as possible to give myself the best chance of being like, I can just screw around. Look, $50 is not that much more than blasters.
Right.
Like, yeah,
well,
like
currently
this for hobby boxes. Yeah. But that's for hobby boxes. Like, I made it as good as I could.
But see, I think this is the big takeaway from this because pre-pandemic, those boxes would likely have only ran 79, $89, somewhere in there. You're
Probably.
still you're still, you're a bit above your cost basis, but you're still in a territory that you can purchase,
Mhm.
open, and not stress out. You can have some fun.
Yep.
If you bust, you bust.
Mhm.
In your terms there, you were speaking on potentially making it in the black
Mhm.
even with your wrapper redemption.
Yeah.
When you're looking at these boxes and they're 120 plus a
Mhm.
box, 100, I think when I bought the hockey, I paid I think my LCS gave them to me at 115 is what
Mhm.
he knocked a bit off. We have a, good relationship there. But at 115, I bought them knowing my odds were an L. On
Mhm.
on a financial basis, my odds were an L. So it's good that you charted all those expenses and are explaining that because that is
Mhm.
the reality.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be all products, but Metal Universe is such an awesome product. It's a fun product. It has that nostalgia factor of the old stuff. Even with, a wrestling fan, they didn't really have it back then, but it has inserts and stuff like that that are really nice. And that is that's the reality of today. If it
Yeah.
if it creeps up above that 50, $75 mark on a lot of these boxes, you're cracking wax to lose money. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
So I wanted to
that's
make
the
sure I share,
basis.
but that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that I was very clear. That's why I wanted to share numbers to be like, if you go on eBay right now, it would cost a little bit more because obviously they come down. But to be fair, for the dealers themselves, with the distributor price, they were losing money on every single box. They
Yep.
were blowing it out because they're like, please take it from us. They knew they couldn't sell it. They had no interest whatsoever in ordering even as much as they had because they're like, we don't have the audience to sell this to. Who are we going to sell this
Well,
to?
and shops, you've mentioned it before. In many cases, they're going to be different than your normal eBay dealer
Mhm.
because eBay dealers get hung up on, well, I'm into it for this much, or even some show dealer, I'm into it for this much, I got to get that. They're looking at this is tying up money sitting on the shelf. They
Yes.
know we're not hitting 2020 again where wax just goes stupid priced and that they're going to be able, who in AEW is going to blow up, to make this product go crazy and up in value. So they know it either sits there and collects dust or they sell it for what they can get and make some of that money back.
Yeah.
So that's the difference in dealers.
Yeah.
So
Part of it though is the delay that happened with the product itself. Because if it had come out at the time it was originally scheduled to come out, this is not unlike your Jason Robertson thing that happened with the Upper Deck or whatever. If it had come out at the time it had come out, the product itself, the AW product was hotter. So there's certain characters who would have done better with the same cards. Whereas today you got to find the right buyer and the prices are still going to be lower than they would have been. You kind of need a home run now. So I'm just going to share there on the screen. So there's 3 red PMGs. So those are 3 that I was able to pull there. The middle one, Kenny Omega, is actually a pretty good one. The one on the one side there that looks like a retro PMG, so this one right here, that one
mhm.
actually sold on eBay for more than I thought. I was actually able to get a great offer on it, and I happily accepted. We were able to come to that terms. At the bottom here, I've got 3 metal autographs. These autographs are 1 in 75 packs on average. So remember that 1 in 75 packs. There are 15 packs in a box. That's about 1 per 6 boxes. I pulled 4 and 9 boxes. So what I'm saying is I beat the odds. I did very well. And even still, I wasn't 100% sure it was a home run. The redemption autographs and everything else in totality, plus a low price point, a low floor, made it possible. We're like, okay, maybe I can get in the black. Hey, you know what? I was able to,
Yep.
and I've never opened that many hobby boxes. I haven't had the pleasure of opening a case or things like you yourself have been able to do in the past. For me, this is the most I've gotten to open out of any one product, anything. I did have fun, but at the same time, it was a wall of singles. A lot. I
Oh
finished my
yeah.
base set and the high number, and I was like, look, some people are going to get real mad about this. I did all my thing. I finished a base set. I finished the high number short prints. I put aside the inserts. I put aside the high number short prints after I finished my base set. Straight in the garbage can. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Did you actually get to complete the set though? Because
Yeah, I got
that's
it.
pretty interesting
One to
because
150, 150, including the short print high numbers. Got them all.
that's pretty impressive because you only get I believe it's well, I don't know how the AEW runs. The hockey you only get like one of the high number per pack, I believe it is.
That's what it is. Yep.
And yeah, and it's like tough to finish those sets because I know tinfoil conspiracy theory, how dare them, shame on them,
Mm.
but there's a collation there, and you'll get the same run. Like the packs will have the same runs in it. You know,
My
if you
collation was
get
decent. I think I got my boxes all out of the same case, and the collation was actually decent. I did get duplication for
so it
sure.
was mixed up.
Yeah, but I was able
Yeah.
to I was able to get enough of the short prints to finish it, to finish the 50 short prints.
So on 2020, 2021 Metal Universe Hockey, um, I didn't purchase any hobby boxes of
Mhm.
those. I was trying to complete the set just simply with blasters because I
Okay,
think the product was like 400 that year or something for hobby. It was
right.
insanely priced that year. Um, and so I was trying to do it with blasters, and that's when I realized the collation because if I didn't get the right blaster, then I couldn't get the cards I needed. So I had like these little holes, to fill in. 2021, 22, we bought a couple hobby boxes, and then this year I bought a couple hobby boxes. But it's definitely a fun product, but
Yeah.
I would love it more at your cost basis than normal
Yes. Yeah.
pricing because
Look.
it really you have to hit like for hockey instance,
Mhm.
it's tough to make. I mean, she hit the Maddie Beniers auto.
Yeah.
That's one of the best rookies, numbered, autograph, and it doesn't even cover the cost of a box.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, for the majority of the boxes that I opened, I was looking at it and I was like saying, I'm pulling PMGs, I'm pulling autographs, but I'm like, the characters are not top tier characters. I'm like, ooh, okay. Like
Yep.
again, my cost basis was as good as I could have asked for. Like I minimized the amount of risk I was taking with it. Second to last box, one of the PMGs was a CM Punk. Now, CM
Mm.
Punk's not with AEW anymore, but at least he's still a name. That I was like, okay, there you go. I think that one covers a couple of the boxes at the full price and everything. I was like, all right, then. Kenny Omega's a solid one. The CM Punk one's a solid one. But I can't complain. One of the autographs surprised me. It did better than I thought it would do. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. It found it found its collector that it wanted it. So I was like, fantastic. I was happy to make that deal. And one of the other PMGs sold for a price I was very happy with. And I was like, hey, awesome, man. If you get a little bit extra on a couple of ones you're not expecting, that makes the math even better. And one of the Upper Deck redemption ones, which again were bonus, that helped a lot, of course, because those ones are basically free. Your cost basis on those is free. So whatever you get out of them is bonus at that point. One of them sold. I literally had 3 of them sold within 90 minutes of listing. The people threw offers at me right away and they were like, I'd like to have that. And they're like, absolutely. I literally had them in the mail today. Gone. They're out the door. I took my pictures and moved
Well,
on.
I mean, if nothing else, you can't beat it. You had fun, and it
Mhm.
at your cost basis, it's okay to open wax. I mean, let's
Yeah.
just be real. I would love it if wax was back to where it was, 2020, pre 2020
Mhm.
times.
Yeah.
Um, because
But that's the reason
you
why I made it
mentioned
to
opening
that.
cases. I
Mhm.
don't do that much anymore. It's just
Yeah.
stuff's went up so much, and you just know it's like driving a car off the car lot. You're instantly losing money 9 times out of 10.
No, I
So,
agree. But that's the reason why I thought it was important though to make sure that I made clear my cost basis. I made sure to make clear all the circumstances, including the bonus packs. The fact that it was at that show and it was an eligible product, and I took advantage of that, made the whole exchange and the math work a little bit more in my favor. That's why I say, like, I'm not going to sit here and advocate, oh, should I open up a bunch of boxes? No, probably not. Even sight unseen, probably not. Probably the answer is no. If it's your
So
intention to try to make a return, probably not. No.
here's a question to throw out.
Sure.
What did you hope or expect? Because you mentioned you paid 200 Canadian on the Bobby Orr. What was
Yep.
when you bought the card? And I'm not
Mhm.
talking trade value, anything like that.
Sure.
When
Yeah,
you
yeah.
bought it, what did you expect to be able to like value out of that on return from that 200 Canadian?
Oh, so for the Aura originally, I was shooting probably for 350
300?
because it
Okay.
because I felt like it was because I felt like I wasn't trying to get too crazy. I actually got $500 in trade for those
Okay.
boxes. And those boxes were already heavily discounted from the original retail price. So when we talked back and forth, and he said, "Well, would you say, do you want to do 4 boxes then?" I said, "Yeah, sure. I'll take the 4 boxes," because at that point, it's a $50 Canadian cost basis to me because I
Right.
paid 200 for
Right.
the card and I'm trading for 4 hobby box. So right there, my cost basis is super low. I bought a few at a subsidized rate, great, and then the last two were at a super subsidized rate. And I can tell you, having seen what the wholesale cost was, I was getting those boxes way under wholesale for what the distributor was charging them.
So original price was probably, and I'm not too good with the conversion rate, but I would say
Mhm.
the original box price was probably released around 149 Canadian up.
You're
So
talking
they
about
were
wholesale, or
getting
you're
them
talking
at
about retail? Wholesale or retail?
retail price, what
199.
they were selling them for.
199.
199 Canadian?
Mhm.
Ooh.
That was the
So
original.
they
That was
were
the original pre-sale
paying,
prices.
well, if they were selling at 199, they were paying probably,
I can answer that question, but I'm not going to. It's not my store. I'm not going to do it. But you can
yeah,
figure it out in your head. You can
129
figure
to
it out.
149-ish probably is what they were, because then that would give them a 50 to $70 per box margin on it, and it might have even been like a smaller margin than that. Just what I know from my LCS and what he's getting. People think that they're making a ton of money on wax, and it's just not true. So,
No. Well, that's just it. Exactly. From the distributor side, I think it's very interesting how a lot of that works out. That's why I say, like, it's not my place to share that. They were
mhm.
nice enough to share it with me, literally the email from the distributor. So I have it from the source. But it is kind of interesting um, how people think that the markups on these are much higher than they really are, and
Yep.
people would be shocked how low it can be sometimes. But really, forget that. Really, the issue for a lot of these dealers when they're doing this is not even the markup. It's that you're required to buy product that you know you can't move in the
Yep.
same rate in order to get product that you know you can move. So they say, oh, you want allocation on this, you got to buy this other thing that we know you can't move, but you still have to take it. You got to take cases of it.
That was something that was very, very, very interesting to me during the pandemic
You can check that.
because,
You can check that.
yeah, I see it popped on my screen. Um,
Does that surprise
I
you, by the way?
remember,
Don't share it, but does that surprise you?
yeah, a little bit, a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
but do you remember when the Luka Doncic thing, and I think
Mhm.
Neo had one, and it was a
Sure.
nice looking card,
Yeah.
but the Prism Mosaic, before Mosaic became its own brand, and it
Mhm.
was Prism Mosaic,
Mhm.
they became popular, I think, because the Prism cards got to such a high value, people were looking and searching for something else to go to, and
Yeah.
so they started going over to the Prism Mosaic stuff and then started talking about
Yes.
those.
Yep.
That was very interesting period to me because as you stated, and I think it was the newer people, people that came back in or newer or whatever, they didn't realize that product breakers were literally giving away free because they could not fill breaks with it. Panini
Yeah.
couldn't sell the stuff. They were
Mhm.
forcing breakers to buy it to get access to other product,
Exactly.
and it
That's right.
was like they could not get rid of it. And then people were like, "Oh, this is such an awesome card." And then Panini was like, "Oh, well, we're just gonna make its own brand, its own mosaic." And it was just the funniest thing, man, because it was like this stuff was trash. They could not give it away. And now
That's right.
y'all are paying thousands for it.
Mhm.
So, and that does happen a lot. These companies will make them buy something in order to get, because they know they'll be stuck with it. They know people aren't going to want it. They'll be stuck with it, and it'll sit on the shelf. They'll waste time manufacturing it, so they force them to purchase it.
Yeah.
So,
So that's a situation where I do sympathize sometimes for some of the hobby shops because they're but at the same time, they also now, unless you're really stubborn, but if you're a hobby shop that does a lot of business with the distributor and needs to move product, like I said, by contrast, you look at something like Series One. Series One, they went through a crap ton of it, had no problem. It flew out the door, like it flew to the point they needed to ask for more allocation. Like we had no problem selling this. Like we need more. Can we get our hands on some more? But then there's other products where it's like that's just not the case. It's just not flying out at the same rate
mhm.
it once was. And right now, the weirdness with the timing. So I'll just use Upper Deck as the example here. The weirdness with the years and the timing. So we talked about Series One and the Bedard Easter egg and all that. And people, once people caught wind, boom, the stuff flies off the shelf. And Series One is popular anyway, but obviously that added to it and made it a feeding frenzy. They've done well selling the SP Authentic, but since the SP Authentic is actually the year before and the rookies are already year in, it's not flying off the shelves to the same degree. It's still moving, but not
Yep.
nearly as quickly. So it's like it's also a brand new product. It's a popular product. It's a popular brand and all that stuff. But is it flying off the shelves to the same degree? It is not because it's not cheap, and it's technically last year's rookie class. So people are like, if it was the same SP Authentic, they say, oh, we got Connor Bedard Future Watch autos. Boom, fly out the door.
Oh yeah, those are going to be so stupid. But I mean, you also, I'll mention him again, Matty Beniers. He
Yeah.
was he was the Calder winner. He was the guy
Mhm.
everybody wanted last year. And you're looking at this year, he's sitting at 15 games, 1 goal, 6 assists, a negative 14 plus minus. The Kraken are struggling. They're not surprising folks like they did last year. And who else is really people going after in that product? They had another rookie, Shane Wright. I don't know what he's doing this year, but there's just nobody propping it up. And that's going to happen. Like, they better hope that Connor Bedard keeps being Connor Bedard, because
Yeah.
if he was to struggle or go into a rut, or God forbid, I don't wish to bear this on him, but an injury was to happen or something like that, it would it would deflate the hype of the future products there. Just because I don't know, it was weird to me that they chose to put him in Series 2. I don't know if that was to help out the back end product, where it maybe loses a little bit of steam. I don't know, but that
I,
was an
I honestly think
interesting
it, I
move.
just think it was a combination of that, and they didn't want to have to ask for an exemption every year because they've done that in the past with some players. But also, let's be fair about this. They did push him to Series 2. When Series 1 came out, people knew that. So it was known, it was stated. Series 1 still flew off the shelves. So they're like, okay, we can
Right.
have our cake and eat it too. So we'll do the redesign, we'll do the restructure in the format 12 cards, 12 packs, 12 cards per pack, which is a new format. We're adding these outburst cards, we're adding this other stuff, and people assume we're going to put some kind of a Connor Bedard Easter egg. They did do it, obviously. But at the same time, they're like, yeah, if he's able to sustain, then we can sell Series 2 in addition to Series 1. So it allows us to be able to sell both series.
Here is a I haven't even thought of this, but I am gonna this would almost be a marketing genius thing if this winds up happening. So I was actually expecting or curious, even if they put the base card in Series 2, would there be a canvas in Series 1? Because they normally split those.
Mhm.
But now I'm wondering if the canvas doesn't wind up in extended,
It
because
could.
the extended product normally struggles a bit. It kind of gets lost, and speaking of SP Authentic, we know that back in the day, they would put those extended Young Guns in that product and kind of
Mhm.
make them a harder chase. And then they've created this extended version of instead of a Series 3 or whatever. But I'm wondering if they're going to throw the Bedard canvas in that to help prop that up. That'll be interesting to see.
I think the whole strategy behind the Bedard release for Upper Deck is going to be key to the strategy this year. It really comes down because right now it's part of that. It's also catching up because it's kind of weird the way they have to kind of play this weird game because again, we're still operating these parallel years. Like you just think
Hmm.
about it this way. You had consecutive products. You had a 23-24 Series 1 product that came out right before a 22-3 product in the same calendar. You literally went backwards in time and then you'll go forwards in time again and then backwards in time. And you're basically trying to fill out the two calendars to get fully caught up. It's weird. And I wouldn't blame somebody on the outside being like, wait, so why is that the rookie? But I thought that was the rookie. Why is Matthew Nyes or Matthew Knees or whatever here? And then you got, Matty Beniers here. And then like, all right, I got a headache. I'm confused.
Well, I'll tell you, like I mentioned, we got some Metal Universe. I seen it on the shelf, and it didn't even click to me that that was the Beniers Metal Universe rookie year product when
Mhm.
it released. Because I actually went to my LCS, he had it, and I didn't even think to ask him about it. I was thinking, oh, that's just the product that's been out, and I didn't even ask him how much it was, didn't buy none of it, and then I got home and I
Mhm.
realized, holy crap, I know she's gonna want some of that, so the next time I was there, that's when I bought some. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to get lost and try to keep up of who's in what and when is it coming out, and um, I- it would be nice if they got back caught up, but it's it's probably going to be a tough battle unless they combine. I mean, hell, when is the Matty Beniers year cup gonna come out? I mean, it feels like the Robertson year just came out, and there's still another year in between there.
Mhm.
Like 2021 hasn't came out yet for the cup, I don't think.
Look, Bobbles, are you telling me you're not looking forward to the Connor Bedard the Cup year in like 3, 4, 5 years from now?
Well, I mean, am I wrong? 2021-22 cup hasn't came out yet.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. Nope.
So that means they're essentially 2 years behind on the cup. Which would, yeah, I mean, it would put Bedard coming out in 2026.
At the rate we're going,
Holy,
probably. Yeah.
yeah, somewhere in 2025 or 2026. Well,
I,
I
I,
mean,
I, honest, I
you
honestly
heard
would
it
think they
here
would have to
first.
double up at some point. I think it
You
honestly at some point they would have to double up just to get it over with.
just you're hearing it here first for all the listeners, viewers, everybody. Just start saving your money now.
Oh yeah.
Just
Well, look,
start saving now.
there are people saving up for Series 2, but it's like I'll be honest, they're gonna print a ton of that young gun. There's gonna be a lot of them out there. I can assure you. We'll have to see how that plays out. But it has been fascinating. But I will say, for bring it back around to the Expo since we were talking about that a little bit here. The combined there being an SP authentic product, even if it's last year's quote unquote, the fact that we had it fresh, and the fact that we had Series 1 still relatively fresh, I think was supremely helpful. And we had the pack redemption. Like I said, really what it comes down to is that the fact that Upper Deck is at least setting up at the Expo and that we have those pack, redemptions and you can pull autographs out of it and some nice stuff is there and you can get these different you got like victory rookies for a lot of the young guys, especially like if you know too much about the hockey guys, you got the Levi from Buffalo, you got that guy Devon Levi, you got Dustin Wolf from Calgary. So you got these victory
Hmm.
rookies in these packs. And these are nice cards, good for different players. And then Matthew Knees, for your Toronto market, you got that. So the point is like these. Now, obviously, I don't think these are going to go for crazy amounts, but the fact that they're available exclusively at the Expo and everything, they're the fall promotion, means at least in the packs, you can get some of these guys. And temporarily, that's why a lot of this stuff is going to have to go on eBay shortly with the quickness
Oh yeah,
while
yeah.
the moment is right. Um, but it's a nice bonus. The point is, it's a nice bonus. And some people were actually completing the set while they were at the expo. So it was actually some currency if you were able to get some of these packs and pulled a couple of these players and you were able to move that. It created liquidity. And now, actually, Bubbles, let's touch on this because this is an interesting conversation I did have at the expo in one of the dinners, and it was a good one from my buddy who is a dealer at the booth. And one of the things, now he deals in a lot of nice, relatively high end stuff, not like the highest end, but he's still got some very nice high end stuff. And one of the people that came by and bought some nice stuff from him was the Hit Parade guys who were there
Yep.
buying, and they had their booth there as well and doing all that, and they had their Hit Parade product. And this kind of plays into that conversation that was had not long ago about the whole repacks and that section of it. And he is 100% in the vein, looking at it from the dealer perspective, kind of to the Neo side of the argument, that it creates liquidity. For him, it's great to be able to move certain cards, a nice stack of them at a time, because he gets them at a fairly decent price. He's got them marked up a little bit, but the guys come in and they pay him like, 80% comps or whatever it is. And for him, that means it's still profitable. So, in other words, he's able to move a decent amount of inventory. Boom. They go do their thing, whatever it is. And boom, cash money for him. They get the cards and they go throw it in the repack. The thing is, he's selling nice stuff. So when they're picking up
Hmm.
stuff at 80% comps, they're not picking up garbage. They're picking up nice stuff. And then from his perspective, it's like, well, it's on them to figure out how to make that profitable. But at the same time, from the dealer perspective, that does create liquidity. When somebody wants to sell
Right.
him something, now he's got cash money in his pocket from being able to sell a nice chunk of cards in one shot.
Right. Yeah. Like, so those guys are at Chantilly a lot too, and
Mhm.
you'll see them going around the shows, and they buy a lot. And I know, repacks. There's many different ways you can look at it.
Look, I'm neutral on them. I just want to make clear my position. I'm neutral on them. I
I
agree
will
that they are.
say,
Go ahead.
I will say that I am okay with them.
Right.
Um, uh, I've had Hit Parade, a couple of Hit Parade boxes from Dave and Adams. I think one of them was I had them do a break of it, and then another one my son bought me for Christmas one time. I enjoyed the product.
Okay.
I will also say that I have hit some, probably 3 of the top 5 biggest, most expensive cards I've ever owned out of repack products.
Sure.
So, it's I'm not saying they're all good, but I'm saying there's good ones out there.
Sure.
It all depends on who's doing them and how they're done.
Yeah. So the only thing I was going to add, the reason I say I'm neutral on them is because I don't buy repack products. But so one of the arguments is right. So there's two parts. There's the argument that there is junk ones out there, which there totally is. There's ones that are used to scam and get rid of garbage cards. Totally true. Like I'm not disagreeing. I 100% agree that is totally true. But I'm also looking at it as the end consumer, or that somehow it prevents the end consumer. Here's the thing: I've bought cards that other people pulled out of Hit Parade boxes, and
Mhm.
I'm the end consumer. I don't give a crap where you got the card from. For me, I'm interested in that card. I bought the single. Somebody
Right.
else opened the Hit Parade and the reason I know this is because it's in the one touch with the Hit Parade sticker on top. So I know where it came from, quote unquote. But at the same time, it's like, no, I just care about the card. I'm purchasing this card from you. Where it
Yep.
came from before that, I really don't care as the end collector. It is for my PC, my collection. I will purchase this card off of you. If you made money, fantastic. If you lost money, my condolences. But my dealing is with this specific card, which is to say, though, the card still found its way to the end consumer. It still found its way to the end collector.
You know the funniest part about some of the opponents on the repacking side is they'll support the wax and the wax pricing and all of that, but we just had a discussion of the chance of substantial loss of value with opening a lot of these wax products today. And on a repack product, I'm not going to say you're going to break even every time, but many of them do produce decent value, or they're going to produce something that you likely could, get something back out of. Um, so that's an interesting aspect. I think the difference though is even taking a loss on opening a wax box, you're buying that product because you like that product, or there might be a
Mhm.
player in there that you want. And the
Yeah.
repack side of it is strictly more just that gamble because you don't
Mhm.
really know what could come out of it. It's not going to be anything from one particular set or a particular. The best that you might get is a particular sport. So there is a difference there in the two sides of the products, but I think overall value sense, I would probably feel more comfortable thinking I would get closer to my value on a repack because if they're just throwing in crap, 10% value, basis on the product, they're not going to sell too much of the damn thing. So
Mhm.
that's another way to look at it. But
No, for sure. And the thing is, it wasn't so much to bring into like a full repack discussion, but I thought it was interesting though because it did come up in conversation, and it was
yep.
interesting because, as I said, as a dealer, I was able to get his perspective. As a dealer, he thought it was it worked for him, and he was actually happy to do it because for him it meant that somebody came by and bought, and it ensured that there was some liquidity there to the point that obviously it costs a lot of money set up in a lot of cases to set up at those shows and to
Hmm.
travel and do all those things. And I'll actually share with you a little story as well. I got a chance to speak to a cross section of dealers from all kinds of sections of the spectrum. He deals in a combination, predominantly modern, some ultra modern as well, but he's got some nice 90s stuff as well. And that's kind of a cross section. Really nice showcases full of a lot of good stuff, especially if you like hockey and whatever. He's got some baseball and some non sports as well, but a lot of hockey. He knows where he is. That means that somebody like that coming by from Hit Parade is seeing stuff from the cup, stuff, high end patches, like quality patches. I showed off on my Instagram here, and I'll just quickly share it. This was one of my pickups from the show. And if you're familiar with the cup, you'll kind of know this thing. Limited logos. So
Hmm.
so you see on card auto, really nice game used patch piece. That was my buddy Steve's booth. So he and I have known each other for quite a long time. We were able to work out a nice deal for it. But that's a quality patch on card auto. Great, a really nice card. He's got a table full of that stuff. Really nice stuff. High end, good patches, good autos. You want your Bobby Orrs, you want your Gordie Howes, you want your Wayne Gretzky's. He's got a showcase of Wayne Gretzky's, showcase of Gordie Howes. Lots of stuff. So when the Hit Parade guys come by, there's plenty of quality content to potentially procure for their product. So if you're buying the hockey side, you're probably getting some nice stuff out of it. But again, it creates liquidity though, because it's cash money in his pocket that he's able to then reinvert if somebody comes by with a card he's interested in. So in that sense, at
Right.
least on that small scope, it kind of helps that portion of the card economy, and the money does circulate around the room. I'll leave it to you to figure out your own thing. Again, do your own research and all that. And I'm not going to advocate for it. It's not my job, but I can see the use case. And from the dealer perspective, he has no complaints. Obviously, it works from his
Right.
perspective. I go, y'all figure out what to do with it from there. You make it profitable. I'm happy with the amount I got for the cards. Now, other side of the equation, vintage dealer, one of the guys that I've dealt with in the past. I had a chance to chalk shop with him for a couple of minutes, which is great. And maybe I'll bring him on the channel at some point to give a little bit more information. And I thought one of the fun things was I asked him, ballpark wise, can you tell me a little bit about what the cost is for you to set up? Because he's a guy who has like almost a whole row of tables, lots of vintage. Again, he's vintage. He does a lot of vintage baseball. By the way, people who think it's only hockey, he's got showcases of vintage baseball, tons of it, but also vintage hockey and vintage football and vintage, like whatever you like. But he's probably got like 15 tables. Like it's this long spread across this one row. But between travel, the stuff that they need to pay, the various bookkeeping things they need to do, because again, customs and things, they got to make sure they take care of everything, all their business. So there's no issues. They are comfortably well into five figures before he ever sells a card. Comfortably into five figures before he ever sells a card. So he was able to share with me some kind of the ballpark figures to give me a good sense of it. But imagine being at least 10,000 deep before you ever sell a single card. It's not cheap freight.
And that's not the only show he's doing. you
Mm-hmm.
know, you know that
Sure.
that these guys are doing multiple shows. So that's something interesting because obviously I haven't experienced the expo, but speaking on terms of Chantilly like that, they raise the rates up at Chantilly, and those guys
Mhm.
have to pay for the table
Mhm.
by the end of that current show. They can't
Right.
say, "Oh, well, let me decide," for the next show. They have to pay then to reserve their spot. So yeah, it's not cheap to do, especially these guys that travel and everything. I'm curious, did he say how he did, like on a vintage perspective?
Yes.
Did he
Yeah,
give?
we were able to have a nice chat about that for a little bit there, and I also chatted with one of the other guys working the booth. He was able to give me some information on some of the logistics. It was actually really nice to be able to get a little talk shop. It helps that he's seen the channel before, so we already had a little rapport going on before. I don't think he's going to be spilling the guts on the books just in general terms. I don't think it'd
No,
be good business to
I
do
was
that.
just curious,
Yeah,
like good,
no, for
bad,
sure. Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. He found it to be all right, because they do have some nice stuff that people still enjoy collecting. They're able to cater to the set collectors a fair bit. As the show went on, he found that at the time that I was chatting with him was a little bit on Sunday. So I wanted to. That was one of the last things I wanted to do was to grab a couple of cards from my 63 Fleer set that I'm working on. So I was able to grab a couple more for the PSA set registry set that I'm working on. So I was able to grab a couple of these. But he said that his show was about a little bit above average. The way was the way he put it, because obviously, yeah, and that's why I wanted to make sure we covered a spectrum of different people in different segments. Is that the economy is down? That's still real, but we had strong foot traffic. People were still interested. People were still there. They still wanted to participate, and they were willing to buy things, but the prices have to come down. And it's kind of what we discussed before. Dealers that are flexible and willing to deal
Well,
based on
yep.
today's pricing had no trouble moving inventory. That's why I gave the whole thing with the hit parade. It was nice for him because he was able to sell a stack of cards. But guess what? He was able to sell cards to other people too, collectors that came in. And he was willing to be flexible. He goes, "All right, so what do you want to do? This is what they're going for, blah, blah, blah." Have the conversation, do the whole song and dance. Can you live with this? Is this price acceptable? I can work with this. Okay, here you go. Boom, done. If you're able to do that and willing to do that, you move stuff.
Yep.
I went the other end of the spectrum, buddy of mine who sets up on the other side, and he didn't have as much high end stuff, but he had a variety of different things. Here's the thing: one of the things he was selling a lot of was the Tim Hortons cards. That is not high end stuff. But people were filling out their sets. They were interested in it. So he had a nice stack of those, and he was actually selling through those pretty quickly. And he had some value boxes, and he was selling through those very nicely. So it's not that nobody's buying anything. So in the end result, I said, "So overall, how's the show going for you?" He goes, "Not as good as last show in the spring. It was really good because I had some higher end stuff, but for the stuff I've got, it's moving."
And I wonder if that's part of some of the struggle with the
Mhm,
shows today. And you mentioned the value boxes and stuff. I've noticed, and it was actually talked about when I went to the National the year before last. I was
mhm,
hearing some dealers and some folks talk about it. There seems to be a less of the true value boxes
mhm.
placed out now because the real estate costs so much more to set up these tables.
Right.
The dealers are trying to put out more of the high end stuff to try to recoup those fees. But I
Yeah.
think, like, talking to some other, friends I have that go set up at shows, smaller shows where, it might be 30 or $50 to set up a table. They'll have boxes of, true value boxes sitting there, and they will say, "I killed it with my value boxes." And that's
Right.
how shows used to be. Is like I
Mhm,
knew a guy that he would go set up at a local show here, and he would have I don't know how many tables, but he would bring boxes upon boxes upon boxes of five rows, and he would
mhm,
sell cards at like a dime a piece or whatever. And he would make so much money because all of his boxes had someone sitting at it, digging through, making piles. But the cost of the tables have went up so much that people aren't filling their tables with those boxes. And I think that could be part of the struggles there. As silly as it sounds, you would think, "Oh, well, I got higher dollar cards, I'm gonna make more money." But it doesn't
mhm.
always resonate that way because you're probably selling a lot less.
Agreed. No, 100%. Like your point though about the costs of the tables is a fact. Obviously, the Expo from the Canadian side of things is going to be one of the more expensive shows to set up at.
Oh
It's part
yeah.
of the cost of doing business. It's the biggest show. It's going to have plenty of foot traffic. We're in a spot where people. It's a destination show. People will fly in to attend the show. I will say I need to talk to some other folks though that I know for a fact attended. What I hear, and I will confirm. I want to make sure I get the full information. I'm hearing the trade nights are starting to get a little traction. That's something that had not been a thing for us, not to the same degree, not at all. We didn't have a trade night culture, but some of the folks are starting to get into the trade night thing a little bit more. I'm hearing that there's a little bit more activity going on over there, which is interesting to me because it's not my scene. But I think it's interesting that they're starting to get a little traction on it. Hey, cool, good on them. I've got no issue with that whatsoever. I'm happy for them. But I do want to get a little bit of a sense of the vibe check on that. I'd have to see it for myself to be like 100%. But I know a few folks who attended some of them, and I can get a little bit of a little lay of the land and see what's going on with that. But from the show itself perspective, to your point, I joked about, like I said, I said the thing about the boxes that I opened. It was a great experience for me. To me, I will tell you this, Bubbles. It was one of the most fun things I got a chance to do a little wheeling and dealing and be able to get those boxes because there's 0% chance I would have bought 9 hobby boxes on my own, especially at the
Oh
retail
yeah.
price. 0%, 0%, none under any circumstances. But at the cost basis I had it, part of it was a trade that I was able to finagle and make all that happen. I was happy to do it. That under those circumstances and the cost basis I had, we were good. But I
Well,
knew. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it also coaxed you probably to buy a couple extra,
Yes,
and you had a bit more benefit to buy the extra having the wrapper redemption there. If you had
100%.
walked into
That
the shop and even at the same price, you likely may not have been as interested in buying them. So they gave you a little bit of added benefit too. So
everything, the reason why I made sure to share all that information, all of it, was that it needed to be clear that all of this played into the calculus. If we did not have the wrapper redemption as a way of providing potential additional value, then no, it doesn't make any sense to do it because why on earth would you like then your money out of then you're just hoping for a good pull. But the fact that you've got this additional stuff that even under the right circumstances, we talked about the value box thing in a second. Here's the thing. History has told me over many years that if you get it on those Packer redemptions, if nothing else, then during the show, you can move some of those cards. Some people are trying to finish the set and we're going to, so there's some value, there's some currency in the cards that are inside of those packs, even if it's just the regular stuff. But you can also look, I literally, no exaggeration, I did pull 3 autos. That was great. One of the autos sold within 2 hours of me listing it. I put it on eBay. It's sold, gone, 2 hours. Buy it now. I put it what I thought was a fair price. My cost basis on that is zero. I sold for $30. Boom, that's $30 off the price of the overall discussion, the equation.
did they have Bedard stuff in the wrapper redemptions?
Nope, nope,
Well, that was
nope.
interesting. I'm surprised
That,
they didn't do
not
that.
that I'm aware of. I don't think so. But
Yeah.
the point is though that with what we had, imagine for a moment, just picture that you've got this, and suddenly we're able to convert that into $30 quickly, just like that.
Mhm.
Boom. Well, that $30 goes towards the cost basis of what look at the cost basis I just gave you, that's almost half a box for a free item that I have nothing into. So that right there is immediately starting to offset and we're chipping away at the thing and we still have some nice cards remaining. So that's why I say like the likelihood of going to the black just went up substantially because
Right.
of the extra content. But you have to play that into the math because if that's not there, you change the equation completely. You got to be like, okay, we don't have that. We don't have that option. That's not available to us. Redo it. To the point of what you were talking about the cost of the tables. One of the gentlemen I was speaking to helps the AMG folks set up the show out in Atlanta, Canada, and they run a monthly card show out there. And what happens is that card show, I want to say the cost per table is like $20, maybe
Yep.
30, something like that. Very inexpensive. Well, guess what? There are tables full of value boxes because it totally makes sense at 20 or $30 a table. Of
Yep.
course, absolutely. Because I joked about all those boxes that I opened, the pile of singles. I actually took a picture at one point. I see if I have it here. If I have it, I'll show it on the video version of this. But yeah, okay, I do have it. So this is at one point when I was doing my breaking. So there's my like stack of singles based on the thing. These are not inserts at all. These are all base predominantly that's sitting there.
Yep.
That all went in the trash. I'm sorry. My
But
condolences to the base folk, but like I can't cart it away with me. I'm not doing it.
But as a dealer at a show, if you could set up a box,
Yeah,
you pay
yeah,
$20 for the table or whatever, and have half the table boxes, or buy two tables and have one section boxes and one section displays, people will go through and buy those because they want to do the set. And it's much easier to buy it that way than paying shipping per piece or whatever, or even ComC. I mean, that gets expensive too. So
yeah.
sitting there at a
To your point,
table,
in that scenario, I can take one row because that
yeah.
isn't so many cards. It's not such a crazy amount of cards, but I can take one row and I can be like 10 cents a piece. Knock yourself out.
Yep,
Boom,
and
done.
and one person would likely dig 20 bucks out, and then boom, your table's paid for. Yeah,
Correct. So that's totally viable in that scenario that you just laid out.
yep. And if you go to a small show, it's such a like, don't get me wrong, the big shows are awesome. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of cool things to see, a lot to do, a lot of people, all of that. But if you really want to wheel and deal and find some good buys, or even trade or make stuff, make some sales to a dealer, even small shows are by far where it's at, because the
Sure.
dealers aren't so gung-ho and held up on their prices, because they're not looking at a $10,000 plus bill that they've accounted for before the show opened the doors. They're much more relaxed knowing I only got to make back $20 or $50 or whatever than thousands of dollars.
Mm.
So it's always something to keep in mind if you want to attend a show and maybe get some good deals or whatever. Small shows are really fun too. So
I agree. I agree. But I think all those are factors that play into it. As I said, it was a good time. It was a lot of fun for somebody like me who's been to that show. That is my the show's in my backyard, so to speak. So for me, it really comes down to, as much as anything else, it was the hanging out. Yes, I was able to find cards for the collection. That was a lot of fun. Found a bunch of stuff. This one was actually a deal that I had made on eBay, and I picked it up at the show because the dealer was going to come by and was able to drop it. I was actually able to have a nice chat with him. He dropped it off at my buddy's table, but I saw him later. We will have a nice chat about it and everything, which is awesome. Able a one of one printing parade autograph, was able to get that. That was awesome. Picked that up for my buddy
Medano,
Medano. Yep. So we got that. I don't like printing plates, but autograph printing plates I don't mind, because then at least I've
yeah.
got the on card autograph, so
Well, that
that's fine.
looked clean too. So
It's a good auto. But able to get that. The Ship My Cards guys came in. So I was able to have, for a flat fee, they actually delivered a handful of cards. So I was able to get the lamp lighters from the cup.
those are
Got a
sweet.
nice, yep, got a nice Medano out of that. But the point is, like, okay, so I'm able to go to that show. I'm able to pick up cards that I've already ordered, pick them up in person, get them cheaper that way, because then I don't have to put customs in the rest of the nonsense. Great, sensational. Able to find some cards while I'm there. Awesome. And then, yeah, hang out, even reluctantly, with Eric.
Yeah, I can't believe he's not on here tonight. Friday's coming. Hope he's prepared,
Hmm.
and we'll have to get his fill next week to share with everybody. But it
Well,
sounds
I'm
like
really
y'all had a
enjoying it.
good time, and it sounds like the show was strong, and that's definitely good to hear. So
We gotta get you up north, Bobbles. Let's go. You and Mrs. Bobbles. Let's go. Hit the road.
yep, I definitely want to attend the show. That is definitely on the list. So we'll see. I
And now,
got a year. I have a year, I think.
yep, about a year.
Yeah. So we'll see what we can do. Maybe I can talk her into it next year.
Well, look, all you know is you're already set. You're already a step ahead of the game. You're already the preferred co-host. Like I said, I already got some feedback. The Boston guy, some people are a little iffy on that dude.
The Boston. It wasn't. Oh man, his name slipped me. Um, Paul. Wasn't Paul? Was it? He's always got a thing out for Eric.
Oh, Paul V or Paul C?
Paul. Well, both.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I did. I actually had dinner.
Both.
I actually had dinner with Paul C. I did hang out with Paul C, and I did share. He actually contributed a stack of tough stuffs. So I got some tough stuffs and some
Oh,
Canadian sports card collectors. So I got some for my series. So he gave me a nice bag full of them. By the way, for the record, y'all dealers let me down. I saw no Beckett's. Maybe I completely missed it. Maybe I totally whiffed, but I didn't see like anybody with a decent set of publications anywhere. I was looking around. Now, mind you, I wasn't looking table by table, scanning as closely as I could have, but I wasn't seeing anything. I was like, what the heck? So Paul actually gave me a nice stack of them. I got some tough stuffs from the 90s and stuff. So at
man,
least I got something for the content gods. Jeez.
tough stuff is like near and dear to my heart. When you talk nostalgia,
Yep.
yes, Beckett, we all grew up with it, but when tough stuff came out, I still remember I don't know if you guys have those up north or, I don't know if they're everywhere, but I remember the local grocery store was Food Lion. My mom would always go there each week to get groceries, and I would go in the magazine aisle and I would sit down and see if the new tough stuff was there. Because as a kid, yep, Penny Hardaway. I can't remember who was on the first one. I want to say it might have been Shaq, but I can't remember. But as a kid and you're on a budget, it was like how genius to put all of the sports in one magazine. I only have to
Yep.
buy one. I don't have to buy all of them. I only need one. So I definitely, but then, I never thought of this.
Hmm.
This would be a good topic later on because I know we're
Sure.
getting deep into the episode. But do you know how we argue over the grading companies today?
Hmm.
Do you guys remember the arguments of Tough Stuff versus Beckett pricing?
Hmm.
Those were the days. Those were
I
the
think the
days. If
key.
you went by Tough Stuff, no, it's got to be by Beckett. Man, brings back so many memories.
So that's going to be one element of it, but the other piece of it is between that and the Canadian Sports Car Collector. I can tell you, I started leafing through them. I'm still going to do the episodes. I am going to obviously I got to get resituated this week. I had a lot of Expo content. Consider this kind of my close off on a little bit of it. I may do a separate video on the last kind of overall thoughts on the Expo, but this podcast was also me kind of sharing some of my observations and my thoughts and a lot of the pieces of it. I wanted to share it this way and kind of have a back and forth dialogue and conversation about it. Look, overall, let me put a button on it this way. Awesome show, had a great time. It's my backyard show. I enjoyed tremendously. The fact that it happens to be the biggest one on this side of the border is huge. The fact it's still one of the top shows in North America, however you want to slice it. 200,000 square feet is no joke. You got to respect that.
Oh,
Like that's
yeah.
legit. So like we're not playing around over here. And obviously we had legit signers. It's a legit show over here. It's not for everybody, but it's not all hockey. I promise you, there is other stuff on there, but it is hockey dominant, no question. So if you're into the hockey game, there is no bigger show in town. This is the show if you want to play that game. But I will say that every year or twice a year, it is a ton of fun. But yeah, it's really the hanging out, man. The fact that I went over, the fact we were able to do a live stream again, ramshackle or not, just off an iPhone with a tripod, hanging out at the Needham booth. We had Eric, we had Yannick, we had Bobby, we had myself, just hanging out for a little bit. Again, we'll organize it better next time, but it was fun to do. I'll work with the PSA folks to see if we can figure something out, but they had an army out there, man. So it was fun. It was fun to see people react to it for the first time because, like I said, there were a lot of PSA shirts out there. They did in fact have an army. They needed it.
Well,
Even the
this
Beckett
was,
folks were out in droves.
would this have been the first time
It's first on-site
PSA
grading.
has
This is the first on-site grading. Yeah,
in
ever.
Canada?
Yep, ever.
Well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was huge. So that was a big milestone for them. And like I said, business was brisk over in that territory. Business was very brisk, and a lot of signers. Business was brisk over there too. There was a lot going on. So let's just say there was no lack of activity. I definitely saw that. And good news, everybody. Meat guy did well. Meat guy did well. We're good. Solid. Solid. Worked out. And like I said, I got a chance to chat with and meet a lot of folks that are in the comment sections, a lot of folks that are in the chats on the Fridays, especially, and that as well. And so thank you to the folks that did come by, at least to say hello. and chat a little bit and talk some shop and see how people are doing. And it was very enjoyable. It was very enjoyable. Put names to faces. You know, it was faces to names. You know, the whole 9 yards. So that was a lot of fun. And ignoring Eric for the majority of the show was really tremendous. I really enjoyed it tremendously. It was wonderful.
And there's a few things I know you'll probably share Friday, along with Eric. So
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Look, we got some stories to share. We may have allegedly tormented him a little bit in the dinner we had. But to close off this episode, though, a couple of things I want to say. So thank you, Bubbles, for sharing this with me, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you carrying, the load of some slacking co-hosts that are like wandering aimlessly around the Massachusetts Turnpike. Some slackers, they can't figure out how to get home, making them a million
I think the
excuses.
games in the third quarter, the traffic should no longer be a
Mm.
problem.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yes, hopefully folks enjoyed this. It was a little bit more of a self-indulgent episode. I did want to talk a little bit about Expo and really lay out something. On Friday, we'll definitely talk about it, but I also want to talk about other stuff. Let's talk about some other stuff that's going on and see how some things are going. But we'll share some stories then too as well. So more videos coming up on the channel this week. We should be back on a more normal schedule. I'm actually going to be recording the AMG podcast for the AMG Collectibles. The folks are going to be jet lagged or not. The store got opened today, so they were back. They were back in the saddle. And look, I got a list of products. I got a list. We got another AEW product on the horizon, Bobbles. There's another one. I'm like, oh man, like how many boxes am I going to get in this one? Let's start working discounts. So we'll see what happens with that one, but we'll definitely do some digging into that. That's at the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. AMGcollectibles.ca, AMGcardbreaks.com. Thank you for them for being friends of the channel and sponsoring a lot of the stuff that we're doing. So we appreciate that. But I did want to share something new before we sign off, Bubbles. I did want to have a sage. Do you want to have a moment of Zen, a word of wisdom? I've got one to finish off the show. Word of wisdom from a hobby goat, a top tier person in the YouTube content game. Are you ready?
Well, now you have me intrigued, so we have to.
Am I happy I did it? Yeah, because Mike Trout sucks now. So leave it at that.
I mean,
that right there, I can't argue. Like that's yes, I could not agree more.
You heard it from him first.
Filmington spoke. Like, don't listen to me. Listen to Filmington. See,
He's the baseball guru, right?
Didn't have Filmington on the bingo card for the BIC pod tonight, did you?
I will say though, I don't know why, but I have a couple Trouts listed, and damn, people are still into that guy.
They are.
Man,
I don't know what to say, man. Look, Filmington told you already. Like, you don't need to listen to me. I quoted the source. Like, what do you want?
You're
what do
innocent now. You have your innocence. You just pushed the button. You didn't have to say it.
I might have that as my as a button that I can wield at the appropriate moment. See, I don't even need to do it anymore. It's fantastic. So I just thought I would share that. To see, now I got one more button in my arsenal. That's a wonderful thing. We always enjoy that. All right. So thank you, Bobbles. I appreciate you joining me on this one. Bobbles and Ball Carts on the YouTubes. You can check it out. A lot of that stuff. He's out there. And the SGC submissions are back online. Deals were made. Although lack of Sharknado is a bit of an issue for me. Like I've heard rumors, I've heard words. I got some problems with that.
See if I can look into that.
Yeah, I'll get some people on. Your people will talk to my people, and we'll figure this out. But like we got some things to answer for. I think there's going to be a little bit.
See if I can assist.
We would appreciate that. So Eric Sanderson-Dor, he'll probably be back next week, assuming he's not still driving around in circles aimlessly. Lord knows, we have no idea.
I didn't know it was that big up there.
Look, I think he's making excuses. I've been to Massachusetts twice by car. It's not that bad. It's not that big an issue.
Did
I don't know what the man's
his bicycle? Is that what happened?
Well, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking it's like, you've seen the Flintstones. It's like that. You have to use the feet and like pedal. Yes. Go watch the Flintstones and you'll get it. You'll get that reference. You'll get it. But anyway, so thank you all for hanging out. I just want to say,
like, I've never met her. I don't know her, but I know his wife was with him, and just shout out to her because she's had to put up with him this whole time. So strong lady there. She's put up with it on a car trip at that, in traffic. So strong lady there. So shout out to her.
Yeah, absolutely. So good luck to her and good luck to Bougie Eric out in the darkness. Probably hang out with Aaron Rodgers as we speak. So good luck to them. Maybe we'll see them next week. Maybe we won't. We'll see. But we'll all cross our fingers and hope for the best. So that'll be it for this time around. More videos coming up on the channel. Live stream will be back at the usual time on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. This past week, we weren't able to make it happen, but we did have a little impromptu live stream on the Saturday. If you wanted to get some of our thoughts, kind of 3/4 of the way through the expo. Sunday is its own beast. Things kind of slow down a little bit, but we definitely, you got the gist of kind of where things sat. And obviously, a lot of tired people on Sunday. I saw them, and it was very interesting to see how folks were doing, especially that deep into the show. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it tremendously, and I'm glad now to be back on the normal schedule. We'll cycle back into it, and it'll be a lot of fun going forward. So we'll have more coming up on that. Bobbles and Ball Cards on the YouTube, like I mentioned. Sanderson DeOr on Instagram if you want to curse at him. So will be a lot of the usual stuff in the YouTube description. And if you check out the audio version of it, do check out I do recommend the YouTube for the full experience. You do get the visuals. It does add a little bit something to it. But if you just want to listen to us jabber on an audio version, hey, I appreciate you too. And if you could leave a 5-star review, we'd appreciate that. For the YouTube version, if you can hit the like button. When Eric's not here, the like button is worth 5x. 5x.
Yeah, not 5% more mature. It's 5 times the cost.
That's right. 5 times the like button fee, because if you can't be bothered to show up, I'm charging you extra. So like, subscribe. We appreciate you. Catch you in the next one.